Okay, see, no, stop.
Have you done this before?
All right, maybe you might want to share my top table. We're gonna get started in 60 seconds.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. January.
It was a scary decision.
19.
I didn't want to leave that.
You don't know? I thought it was like sad.
Oh, so you guys moved all the way over there. So you're gonna make me move.
I don't think.
All right, why don't it's good. Now I need to stay by the mic here. Why don't we get started? It's good to see everyone. Let's just tell me what I'm doing wrong. What am I doing wrong? All right, can you hear me now? Yeah. I like that. My EQ sounds so much better for this. All right. Sorry, I did a little radio work when I was younger. Well, let me welcome everyone to Temple University's Management Consulting Program Live International Business Case Competition. It is the longest named competition in all the world, and we are glad that you guys could be here. My name is Tony C. For those of you who are students, Professor Tony C. It's good to meet all of you. I'm in the Strategic Management Department here at the Fox School. Oh, wait, there was a change. I'm in the Department of Management, so let's push that out. Department of Management here at the Fox School of Business, where our management consulting program resides. And like I said, we've been doing this for about 3 years, and we're really excited about it. This year's a little more intimate setting. COVID and some other crazy things going on have challenged us a little bit, but we've got a great group of competitors from our undergrad program as well as our graduate program. And I've got to say, in the last couple of years, I've been so impressed with the work product that can come out of you guys in 24 hours. And so I'm really looking forward to what's going on. So I'm going to make a couple comments about our program because, hey, that's what I do. And then I want to introduce some guest speakers today. I'm sorry. Let me do something with this. Sorry about that. Siri decided to talk back to me. All right. All right. So the management consulting program. Those of you who don't know, we're one of very few schools in all of the U.S. actually that teaches management consulting. We teach it at the undergrad level. We teach it at the graduate level. Anyone at the university is welcome to enroll in classes. Our graduate students can get a certificate in it, and our undergraduate students can actually do a minor in it. And we've been up and running for about 5 years now, and our program counts 40 plus corporate partners, more than 100 individuals who support what we do, but more importantly, supports our students in terms of finding jobs in the consulting profession. I always say consulting is probably the most ubiquitous profession on earth. There is a consultant for any given human endeavor that you think of, including several illegal ones, right? So I mean, there's a huge opportunity. So it doesn't matter what your major is. If you're looking for more opportunities, using your major in field, consulting is a great way to go. And so we're glad that we can support that. We have a number of curricular and co-curricular activities. So we have classes, but we also have lots of fun activities like site visits to our partners, problem-solving challenges. Matter of fact, we did a great problem-solving challenge over spring break, helping out a healthcare agency in the Phoenixville area, and wonderful experience, and the winning team decided to donate their money actually to Ukraine relief. And so we were very happy about that. And that really just tells you the nature of Temple students, right? We make social impact here and halfway around the world. All right. Some things that you might want to be mindful of that are coming up if you do have an interest in consulting beyond just the competition. We are delighted that one of our corporate partners, McKinsey & Company, is going to be on campus April 1st. So if you have an interest in a company like McKinsey, the recruiter will be out here. We're going to have a special session that we'll be hosting during the free period on April 1st. And there's going to be some registration information coming out within the next week. We also have mock interviews that will be coming up on Wednesday, April 13th. So in the world of consulting, the interviewing process is a little bit different than in traditional companies. We actually give you kind of a live case, so to speak, and 15 minutes to read it and come up with some ideas about how you approach it. It's a very unique way to interview, and it's very common throughout the industry, but it's something you want to be practiced at. And so we bring in a lot of our friends from industry who will run you guys through your cases. You don't have to be skilled in it. You don't have to have any experience whatsoever. I've had first semester freshmen go to mock interviews and have a great experience with it. So if you have an interest in any of these activities, I would encourage you to follow up with us, and we're more than happy to direct you. And if you have an interest in general consulting, just want to learn more about it, I'm right here in Alter Hall on the 5th floor, and happy to talk to you about that. All right. So we're enjoying a kind of evolution of sorts here at Case Competition. Every year, we've been fortunate to have a corporate sponsor who provides not only funding support for what we do with Case Competition, but also provides us a case. This year, we had this unique opportunity to actually split that out. And so our competition sponsor is Lavazza Coffee. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Lavazza. Any coffee drinkers in here, right? All right. Lavazza makes great coffee. They're a multi-billion-dollar Italian manufacturer of coffee products that recently expanded here to the U.S. In fact, I took a bunch of students down to their Americas headquarters down in Westchester on Monday. Had a great experience down there. By the way, they are hiring and they are offering internships, so if you want to know more about that. They are a firm that is committed to fair trade and sustainability. They have a presence in more than 90 countries around the world. An interesting fact about Lavazza, they train some 30,000 baristas every year. And they have 57 training centers, and we got to meet their head trainer here in the Americas on Monday. So if you want to be a barista, we'll introduce you to him as well. But we are appreciative and thankful to Lavazza. They provided financial support so that we can actually put this on, so you guys can have some cash prizes at the end there for those of you who are receiving like well. But I also would like to introduce our case sponsor. This is brand new. We have a corporate partner, and I'm sure you want to know the name of it, who has stepped up and has provided the case that you guys will be working on. And that company is Tyson Foods. Okay, so Tyson, if you were in the workshops that I did, I gave you a really hint with all those A's on that slide there, if you were there and what I was talking about. But Tyson Foods, major food company, Fortune 500 company. Matter of fact, I think 79. Fortune 500 list. So no shrinking violet here in the world of food products. Second largest producer of chicken in the world. Do I have that right? Okay, so big company there. They're in a lot of different products, brands you've probably heard of, like Jimmy Dean, Pilcher Farm, Ballpark, and they have graciously offered up their time and talent to develop what I personally think is the best case we've ever had in this case competition. And probably one of the best cases I've ever seen in many case competitions that I've been involved with over the years. And so in a moment, we're actually going to invite our executive sponsor for this, Keith Barber, who is the Director of Digital Customer Experience at Tyson. He's joining us via Zoom. and he's going to have some comments and things to share with you. And then another partner of ours, Paul Lima. Paul is a founder and managing partner of Lima Consulting Group. They have offices here in South and Central America. Paul's been a longtime partner of our program, supports us in many ways. I mean, he comes to most mock interviews and kind of runs students through the paces, but has been a great partner for the program. And he really kind of spearheaded the development of the case here in partnership with our friends at Tyson, as well as one of your colleagues. You probably all have gotten an email from Hunter Speakman, right? All right. So, give Hunter a pat on the back. He was kind of the brain trust there that helped put this case together. And he represented you guys as the students here in terms of the case itself. And he is giving his seal of approval on it. So it's a very accessible case, not necessarily an easy case, but a case that I think all of you will be able to relate to. And so beyond that, let me just offer up a couple more words of appreciation, because there's a lot of people that put this together. And Hunter is kind of, he works with me. He's my lead on the case competition. Honestly, he owns it, and I just do what he tells me to in terms of getting it all put together. But there's also a lot of other great members of our team. Lindsay Clark, who you've seen around here at the front desk. She's actually a colleague of mine as an employee here at the university, and she handles all of our event planning, logistics, and all of that. So if you like the food, you like the lighting, you like the fact that the mics actually work, you got name tags, Lindsay rides herd over all of that. And to be quite honest, we would have a very difficult time putting on any of these events without someone with that skill set. So if you see her, say thank you. Also, one of my colleagues, Araceli Gunther, is an adjunct instructor who teaches management consulting here as well. It's played a real pivotal role in kind of pulling this all together. And then just other members of my team, I do want to mention by name: Spencer McMaster, Jake Guller, Dylan Blum. They have done 100 different tasks here, kind of pulled this together, and we are extremely appreciative for that, as well as our consulting club and the managing partner of the consulting club, Ryan Sheets. This is really from them as well. It's kind of co-produced by the management consulting program and the consulting club. And lastly, you won't see them tonight, but you will see them on Saturday. In your first round, you're going to be judged exclusively by management consultants. And we are very fortunate with our relationships. We have a number of management consultants who on a Saturday are going to come down here and watch and rate your performance. They represent several companies in the area. By the way, not only is it a good opportunity to get feedback on your performance, your presentation, these are people you probably want to network with as well if you have an interest in this field. So with that, I think this is the point, right, where I need to turn it over. I'm going to turn it over to Keith Barber, the Director of Digital Customer Experience at Tyson. He will be followed up by Paul Lima, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers after that. Keith will have to leave us right after his prepared remarks, but one of his chief lieutenants, Alex Cummins, is going to be sharing in the Q&A. Now, if I were you guys, and I knew the case was about Tyson, I would probably have 115 questions ready to go when it comes time for Q&A. All right, thank you guys. Glad to see you all here, and I hope you have a wonderful competition.
Hey, thank you, Tony. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right.
Perfectly.
Awesome. So good evening, everybody. Delighted to be with you. As Tony mentioned, my name is Keith Barber. I am the Director of Digital Customer Experience at Tyson Food Service. So if you've ever eaten a Jimmy Dean sausage, had a ballpark hot dog, enjoyed an original Philly cheesesteak, or even a McDonald's chicken nugget, you've enjoyed a great Tyson product. Tyson Foods is one of the world's largest food companies, and we're a recognized leader in protein. Founded in 1935 by John Tyson and grown under 3 generations of family leadership. We have a broad portfolio of products and brands, and we're currently, and I hate to correct folks, but we're number 73 on the Fortune 100. Tyson Food Service is the B2B business unit within Tyson Foods and is a leader in protein-centric solutions for restaurants and non-commercial customers like schools and campus dining facilities. Our team of professionals helps operators with menu solutions from breakfast and sandwiches to handheld and pizza across an extensive portfolio of chicken, beef, pork, and prepared food products. I'm excited to be kicking off the third annual Temple University Management Consulting Program International Business Case Competition. In a little bit, this year's case will be revealed, and you'll be asked to consult on a real business problem at a real company with real consequences. As such, I thought it fitting to spend a few minutes talking about consulting and what makes a good consultant. First, I want to share some background on me. I'm a finance guy. Yep, I'm a nerdy bean counter with a degree in finance and even an MBA emphasis in accounting. I spent the early part of my career immersed in NPV, internal rates of return, and ROIs. I've held roles outside of finance in product management, sales ops, retail operations, and traditional brand marketing. But did you notice the one thing you didn't hear me say? Digital. Not one role was remotely digital in nature. So 4 years ago, when I was asked to lead digital transformation for Tyson Food Service, honestly, I was baffled. The first thing I did was sit down with my boss's boss. His name was Scott. He was our chief customer officer at the time, and tell him that he'd made a huge mistake. I wasn't a digital marketer. I didn't understand marketing automation, social media, SEO, how to build a website, or digital metrics in the least. I'd love to tell you that he had some great motivational words of wisdom for me, but that'd be a lie. All Scott said was, Keith, you're a smart guy, you'll figure it out. Or you won't, and someone else who can figure it out will have your job. Well, roger that. I'd be the fourth person in 5 years tasked with building a digital marketing center of excellence, and failure didn't appear to be an option. Now, what to do, right? Well, I did what anyone would do and went straight for Las Vegas. Seriously, I knew I needed to get an education fast, a crash course in digital marketing. I knew I needed help. Someone that had subject matter expertise, someone that had been there, done that. Pre-COVID, Vegas was the place with a digital conference nearly every month. In my first 3 months, I visited 3 times, told the Tyson story, and shared my charge with dozens of consultants. I met with the likes of Deloitte, E&Y, Google Cloud, and Adobe Consulting. All fantastic organizations with really smart people. But none of them delivered a solution that fit Tyson and our food service problem. It was on my 3rd trip I met Paul Lima and the Lima Consulting Group. They had reached out and asked for a 30-minute meet and greet. To be honest, I almost didn't go to that meeting. That would have been a big mistake. Fast forward, Tyson and Lima Consulting Group have had a thriving partnership for the past 3.5 years. They are a trusted advisor. They're teachers, doers, and listeners. They're really why I'm here talking to you today. So as I thought about what I'd tell a room full of aspiring consultants, I thought it made sense to share my perspective on what makes a good consultant. Let's call it a client's view of what to do and maybe what not to do. So first, be a great listener. I once went to a Deloitte greenhouse event. My team spent the day telling our story and sharing our vision. In return, Deloitte served us champagne and sent me home with an autographed baseball. Unfortunately, they failed to listen. Our food service business, well, it's B2B, or even you might argue big B to little b business model. Deloitte tried to shoehorn us into a CPG approach. They didn't ask questions because they made assumptions. In contrast, Lima asked questions, actively listened, and then asked more questions. When they first engaged with our organization, they held 50 or more stakeholder interviews before they ever talked. Second, build trust. Big doesn't equal trustworthy. There seems to be a notion that a big brand conveys trust. I'd argue that trust is earned in the trenches, in the one-on-one interactions with the people of an organization. Can you do what you say you'll do? Can you deliver on time, on budget? Can you listen? Are you candid? Great consultants don't hide behind the brand on the front door. Third, don't just do, but teach. Almost by definition, consulting projects are short-term. Over the past 3.5 years, we've scoped and activated 7 related but different projects with the Lima Consulting Group. Each project had a clear beginning and a finish. As such, it's critical that great consultants invest in ensuring the knowledge transfers before the project wraps. This is where the value is built beyond the project itself. When I evaluate project success, I ask myself 3 questions. Did we complete the project true scope? Did we create value for Tyson? Do we have the ability and knowledge to scale the solution? 4th, be adaptable and think on your feet. In my experience, most consultants have a formula or approach to problem solving and getting to an answer. As a client, I recognize this as valuable to my organization. After all, if I knew how to get to the answer, I really wouldn't need the consultant. Building organizational consensus that the answer, the solution you come up with is right, well, that's often my biggest challenge. Great consultants leverage tools and experiences gained from previous projects combined with their knowledge of Tyson and the problem we want to solve to creatively guide to a solution. This means having the ability to iterate, incorporate feedback, and adapt to new variables. The Lima Group is a trusted partner because they never begin a project with a predetermined solution in mind. We work collaboratively with the right answer being the one that's best for the Tyson food service customer. And lastly, to be adaptable, you need to check the ego. The best consultants I've worked with have had a solid process and a disciplined approach, but never assumed they had the answer. Checking your ego keeps you intellectually curious, driven to find the answer that maximizes value to the business. I've heard it said, the smartest person in the room is the only one in it incapable of learning. As the smartest person in the room, you're it. How are you supposed to motivate yourself to be better if you're already the best? Remember, ego and complacency are best friends. In my experience, the best consultants stay curious, turn over all the rocks, big and small, and routinely challenge the status quo. I hope you enjoy this business case from Tyson Foods. Good luck and thanks.
Thank you, Keith. The mic is muted, but you had there's a large round of applause for you, sir.
Keith, I don't
Thank
even
you.
begin. That was a really great review of some of the work that we've been doing with you, and it's been such an honor to work with you and your entire team, your chain of command up and down, and your team, with the digital customer engagement group. So thank you for that opportunity to work with you and the team there. I've learned a lot along the way, and really, quite frankly, it's been one of the, I mean, it's kind of like your kids, you love them all, right? All your customers and all, but I'll tell you, Keith, I really enjoyed working with you a great deal and the team there. So thank you for the opportunity to collaborate with you at Tyson, and thank you to Tony and Araceli and Hunter for the collaboration and the opportunity to be a part of my third business case competition with this organization. I'd like to start off, and I still don't know how to respond to Keith. That was just amazing. But I could also give a small 3 to 5 points. I don't have time to do it on what it takes to be a great customer. And I'm going to tell you, there's certain customers that listen better than others in terms of willingness to engage, willingness to be intellectually honest and curious, willingness to actually have intellectual wrestling matches in a very professional way, but to be able to hold each other accountable. But also, there's been times where he's done it to me, I've done it to him, or said, I'm not going to let you off the hook, buddy. Here's what I think. And to have that kind of rapport, but it takes some time to earn that trust and advisory relationship. And not every personality is going to work either. And I think with Keith and I, and just our teams as well, it's really worked very well. It's been very enjoyable. And I think we've delivered on some good value. So again, thank you, Keith. I'd like to start with a question. What's the best question you've heard recently? Think about that for a minute. And I'm going to tell you that as I evaluate consultants, and even as I read, which I like to read a lot, if you're in a consulting space, put that in your hip pocket. You should be reading a couple of books a month, okay, get through those. But the point that I'd like, and I don't read, I listen to audiobooks. That's the thing for me, is to be candid, okay? But the point is that it's not really the knowledge that you pick up in these books, it's the questions. You know, if you talk to PhDs and you ask them, tell me about what you're doing, they will define what they're doing this way. Well, I'm working on a problem. ... They will give you a question. And it's so important to define the problem at the very beginning of what we're trying to do. So the question I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and by the time I'm done with my presentation, we're going to help you be in a position to help Tyson ask the same question about a business model. What is a business model? A business model is a way to make money. It is not a way to save money. That's an operating model. Okay, it is how you charge and the corresponding value of what a customer is willing to pay for it. So sending an invoice is not a business model. And you have to do that to operate. But providing a value, creating the product, creating the service. What's a service? A service is in the moment where the value is created, the haircut is given at that moment, that's a service. Where the product and the action and the value are all consummated in that single explosive moment, like the haircut. Okay, professional services, consulting. The value is in the moment when it's given. So the question I'd like to ask, I'm going to ask a couple of these. What business is Harvard in? What business is Starbucks in? What business is Volvo in? What business is Panera in? I'm going to talk about each of these cases. And I'm telling you that Harvard is a hedge fund business. I'm telling you that Starbucks is a bank. I'm telling you that Volvo is a subscription business. And I'm telling you that Panera is also in a subscription business. Probably not what you thought. The best questions then is how I want you to be thinking about attacking this business case, which I had a hand in helping to draft. So let's start now by just setting some ground rules. What are the big digital megatrends? The first is this accelerating speed to shift to digital. It's happening so quick, we don't need to spend a lot of time on that. You all get it because you're doing it. And you did it during COVID. My hat's off to you to make that happen. I recognize this time. The digital experience is the number one differentiator for many businesses. Not most, or not all, but most businesses, it is the single most important differentiator in how you engage and win, acquire, to convert, to retain, to engage, to win back. All of those parts of the funnel are going to be supported with digital experiences. And if you have a crummy website, crummy app, doesn't work, can't operate it the way you think you're going to work with it, you'll lose interest real quick compared to the competing solutions. The next is that we have all this data and we should be adopting a data-driven model. Can't we use that data? This is the root of the problem that you're going to see in the case study. We want more data, Tyson. Help us get it. And we're going to ask you a question in order to do that. And then the last part is we're transforming our business models. All those examples of how companies make money are transformational. So when we talk about digital transformation, it's really not about throwing up a couple of servers at Amazon and storing our SharePoint. And no, it's about how we make money and create engaging and winning digital customer experiences. So those are the mega trends. Now there's a phrase that we used to use, and that phrase is, nothing is more constant than change. Man, that is my dad's phrase. Nothing is more constantly accelerating than change. And we're experiencing exponential growth. We want to talk about the number of data that we are collecting in the data sphere. I want to talk about how many billions transistors are in your iPhone with Moore's law. Would you like to talk about genetics and how it took $3 billion to get the first one and how you can buy it on 23andMe for $95? These are exponential changes that use data. So we're accelerating, and that acceleration is constant. So the other factors that feed into that are this global interconnectedness, our attitudes about privacy. Boy, I mean, that's really hitting hard right now, right, with everything in the news about privacy, Cambridge Analytica a few years ago, what happened with Facebook and the whistleblower. The list goes on, the death of the cookie, right, and the way that we're redoing all of our technology now, so we don't have to rely on these cookies. And then industrialization of emerging nations. You know, you really think about it. We only have just about half of the human beings on this planet connected to the internet. That's it. You live in a country, or if you're coming from another country, you live in a moment in your experience here in this university today, where it's part of what you do. Maybe you ordered Grubhub last night. Half of the world, we're about 56%, have access to the internet. I don't think we've hit 60% yet. What's going to happen when the other 3 billion come online? You think we're going to get the next Hungry Birds? You think we're going to get more music? You think we're going to actually have changes in the way governments operate, that democracies work? Whoa, a lot of these things are actually happening now. And then lastly, this concept that I set up about disruptive and exponential technology megatrends are happening. So much so that in only 66 years, we went from Kitty Hawk to the moon. This is exponential. And so the lifetime that your grandparents experience relative to the change you will experience will be incredibly different. And if that was the last 66 years, what do we have now? Think about it. You have 15, I don't even remember the number of transistors, but normally I set this slide up with Moore's Law. And in Moore's Law, what we're looking at, I see some of you shaking your heads like you know Moore's Law. This is great. So there's 3 pieces to Moore's Law. Moore's Law says that we're going to double the number of transistors on a chip every 18 months. That's the second piece, and keep the costs the same. So there's 3 constraints in Moore's Law. People usually forget that. There's 3 constraints. Doubling the number of chips in the same amount of money over an 18-month or 2-year period, and it depends on which time you're talking about Moore's Law. That's the concept. So this iPhone 13 that came out, how many transistors are in that son of a gun? 15 billion. You didn't learn how to count this. It's hard for the human mind to even comprehend that. And they didn't teach us how to count like this in school. So that number that I'm showing up here is for another story I don't have time to talk about tonight. But what I wanted to show is when we look at the amount of that number is the data, the size of the entire data sphere. So if we got all of the data, all of the server farms and all of the pictures that Michelangelo created and Leonardo da Vinci, all the songs Billy Joel wrote, put them all together in whatever digitized format you could, pictures, audio, imagery, recorded meetings and my daughter's TikTok, put it all together. And that's the number. 175 zettabytes. We don't usually talk about numbers like this. They didn't teach us how to count like this in kindergarten. And so we work with me. We got a byte, it's just 0 or 1, right? And then you have a kilobyte, a megabyte, a gigabyte. Most people get that. But then you have a petabyte, an exabyte, a zettabyte. Then you keep going. You go to byte, a brontobyte, a gigabyte, and a centobyte. Say, wait, Paul, you said degobyte. That doesn't read degobyte, that reads geobyte. You know why? Because the IEEE hasn't even agreed on whether or not that is a degobyte or a geobyte yet. We don't even know how to count this high, and we're getting there. The reason I talk about that is when we look at the time it takes to share information, the speed at which getting to 50 million users for airlines took 68 years, credit card, 46 years, Facebook, 3 years, Pokemon, Go, back in 2016 in July. I remember I was on a vacation with my kiddos and they were all downloading Pokemon. And of course, with, what was it, Nine Networks? I'm forgetting the name of the company. That they had a relationship with McDonald's and we wound up in front of a McDonald's to get the little Chickapoo or whatever the kid. Pikachu, thank you. All right, so in order to get the 50 million users, though, if we look at what's happening, I mean, Pokemon Go is a couple of days, 19 days. Every time there's an iPhone release, it takes less than 8 hours. So the ability for us not only to be this concept of interconnectedness I talked about, it's really happening. And for many of you on Android and iPhones, it's really happening there. So this concept of loyalty apps, and particularly communicating through the power of something that's a supercomputer, it has a camera in it, it has a GPS in it, right? What could we do with that in a loyalty app? Now, this is something I want you to be thinking about. So these mega trends are unlocking opportunities everywhere that I've been talking about. Now, this is a little bit of a busy slide, but these are the 6 categories of the major mega trends that are underway in our world today: infrastructure and so forth. Not going to go through these, but I want to do a little exercise with you. I want you to just randomly let your eyeball work its way through this slide and pick 2 circles. I'd like to teach you something about maybe potentially your career. And Tony Seaton talked about it. So maybe you're going to major in, I don't know, maybe let's say dance. Any dance majors in the room here? Okay. Who's majoring in the arts? Anything in the arts? Have anybody here? Okay, no one in the arts. Let's say you're a dance major, theater major. And you do what Tony said, and you become a consultant in that industry. Yes, you can put 2 things together. And putting 2 things together in and of itself is an innovation. Right? And you don't have to be an inventor with a patent on your name, and your docket, and your CV, and your resume to be an inventor, to be an author. You should expect to create in your life. People ask me sometimes, what would you like to share with our students? What would you tell yourself if you go back in time? And I would say, expect to invent, expect to create, expect to innovate. It will happen in moments when maybe you don't even expect it. So let's take genomics and let's take 3D printing. Mash them up. What's going to happen? I remember in grad school writing a paper about the mashup of a cell phone, a GPS, and a digital wallet. That was in 2000. So do the same thing, pick 2. Maybe that's a field that you want to work on. Maybe someday we'll be putting Tyson's chicken through a 3D printer in the back of every restaurant in America. Maybe we won't even need distributors. That's probably want to work on. So in the past, well, a lot of what we did focused on products. But I mentioned earlier, it's about experiences. This is an actual Underwood typewriter. This has nothing to do with Frank Underwood if you watch the television show, okay? The Underwood typewriter was the Toyota, if you will, of typewriters. Biggest company. And if you were the company president from a company that's 1800s, founded back so long ago, what would you do to innovate? That is not a joke. That item is a typewriter connected to an iPad. It retails for $1,300. That is about an experience for someone who wants a tactile experience. Look at Sephora. Maybe some of you have purchased makeup from Sephora, and they're using artificial augmented reality, to be able to take a look at what I'm going to look like with that particular treatment of the makeup. That's a digital experience. So we're changing the way that we're innovating, but it starts with the data. And he who has, or she who has the biggest databases should win. That's always been true. If you are the company that has the most production volume, shame on you if you're not also the cheapest. You should be using good management practices to lower the marginal cost of production as you go down that curve of the marginal production curve. Maybe I'm sounding like an econ professor, but the same thing is true here. If you have the most data, you should know the most about your customers and being able to mine that data. So if we look at the most successful business models, they combine new ways of making money with innovation, which is this influence of putting things together, and customer experiences, as we were talking about. Now, this isn't from me. This is from another company, now with credit, formerly called the Barber Group. They're fantastic. And they do this experiment and this breakdown of the different types of innovation. Those 2 in the middle of the orange box, kind of yellowish orange, are around offerings. So let's get our product engineers in a room and ask, well, what can we do to innovate? What you're gonna find is 2 for 1. We're gonna do 20% bigger bottle. We're gonna do another feature on our and we're gonna give the ability to print Bluetooth. Those are features. Those are packaging. That's where so many companies start. But if you really look on the 2 ends, the left and the right, I know it might not be easy to read there. But the biggest opportunities are focused on the ends. Let's change the way we make money with the profit model. Let's change the way we have our customer experience. Put those two things together, and now you have Dell. And that's an old one, right? Dell Computers did exactly what I just said. A new way to make money with the digital experience. So Volvo today, you can subscribe anytime, anywhere. This is not a lease. You can now subscribe to your Volvo. So the 6 best practices for CX transformation, customer experience transformation. I don't have time to go through all of this. I'm going to point out one of those areas, which is business model innovation. That's what I've been talking about. And that's, and in essence, the tip of the spear of this entire case. And you need some of these other capabilities. Keith talked about capability building, meaning hiring really smart folks. Alex was one of those key long pole in the tent on the team that Keith hired when he got that team and brought her in. About agile operating model. We're doing a lot of work with our sprint planning. Personalization, well, we're not ready to do that at Tyson. We don't have all of our data ready to go. Real-time activation, we're getting there. And then the marketing and the data enrichment. But you're going to be focusing on the one called business model innovation. So the 4th industrial revolution, many of you might have heard about things from Davos, this conference that goes on with the World Economic Forum, and the gentleman who put that together, he wrote a book called The 4th Industrial Revolution. And he does a really nice job of talking about what happened basically from the time that Standard & Poor's with Mr. Rockefeller became a thing in the 1870s, all the way up through about, what is that, 2006, first name there? So one of the children of Standard & Poor's is a company called Exxon. And Exxon at that time in 2006 was about $360 billion. These orange ones are oil, okay? Then you had all these light blue ones. Microsoft was the only, well, I guess we didn't get all, oh, the colors aren't right on this slide, funny enough. But the oil companies are supposed to all be in orange. So then we split, and between 2006 to 2016, all of these companies, except for one, are now companies in the business of collecting data and providing digital experiences. Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. And Exxon's still there, number 5. But look at 2021. These numbers were accurate as of November. Now we have around $6 trillion companies. Only one of which is an oil company. You might not have heard of it. It's called Saudi Aramco. You know what's interesting about Saudi Aramco? That's the Crown Prince's company. And you know what they decided to do? Why did that become an IPO just a few years ago? I'll tell you why. They wanted to get out of oil and go into data. They made a national IPO of their oil infrastructure, and so that they could diversify. And what do you think they diversified in? The other companies on that list. The only reason it's there. So we have seen a change now. It's arguable to say that data is the new oil. But if that's true, what is data power? Well, oil. What did oil power? Oil-powered machines. The first, second, third industrial revolutions. What does data power? Anybody, for real, anybody. What does data power? Why is it more valuable than oil? What does it power?
Visualizations, models.
Visualizations and models. Those I would say would be like features, right? So what else does it power? Why do you use data? Strategy, knowledge. What are we doing with that knowledge? I heard somebody say wisdom. Wisdom, I like that. Wisdom is applied knowledge. Applied knowledge. That's what wisdom is. Yes? Say again, what last word?
Data powers innovation.
Innovation. So new ways of thinking. This mashup we were talking about. I'll tell you what data powers. Data powers decisions. And if you think about the decision sciences, I would be willing to bet you have over 60 majors in the school that are decision sciences. From economics to supply chain, there's so many. Data powers decisions. in the human mind. It's knowledge applied. So, I'm a salesperson at Tyson. Someone gives me a check. What do I do with the check? Put it in my drawer? Forget about it for 6 months, 6 years? No. I take that check and I run over to the CFO and I put it in his account and he centralizes it and he uses it to power further business objectives. Why do we do that with data? Somebody got my business card tonight. Maybe they'll put it in a drawer for 6 weeks, 6 years. That's data. Why aren't we putting that in a centralized database and allowing everybody to use it so that we can further our business objectives? Data is the new currency. That's the point. Data is more valuable than money. Data is more valuable than money. It's really hard to say that in front of CFOs, but we earn that money, right? And you can work to have that money work through the company. But if we don't have the data and we don't know who our customers are, we're really in a bad spot, in a bad way. So I don't have time to work through all the patterns of disruption, but I'll just say that there are many examples where we've disintermediated, dematerialized, and digitized customer experiences in music, in cars, in financial services. And Tyson Foods Services, TFS, we are anticipating disruption. We believe that the supply chain is going to be disrupted. And no matter how that disruption evolves, we would like all paths of that disruption to lead to a direct digital relationship with those who value our product. So in the case that you're going to learn about why we don't have a direct relationship with that B, that's big B, to the next B, which is a distributor, to the small B, which is an operator or a restaurant. Right? Hunter, how are we doing on time? Do I have 3 to 5 more minutes, or do we go to questions?
No, I think you're good. You got 3 to 5 more minutes.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is give you some specific examples of apps, because this case study is about the loyalty program at Tyson. And we don't have a loyalty program at Tyson that is super mature yet. Okay. So let's just do a couple of other examples. Now, first thing I'm going to say is, okay, Paul, Tyson is business to business. I don't want to confuse you. I want to inspire you. So I'm going to give you some examples of business to consumer apps. Okay, what that really, and we have a definition in the case study. That language may be new, but in the example with Starbucks, you know, they have $1.5 billion in prepayments, and that was in fiscal year 19. Do you know where that puts them in terms of relative amount of money they have as an unregulated bank? They literally are an unregulated bank. They're not that far behind American Express. And I'd be willing to bet that they've caught up significantly. So maybe Starbucks, if you're the CFO at Starbucks, you have $1.2 billion of money that you may not be able to recognize that revenue, but it's sitting in your cash. What would you do with that? How does it change your business model? Is it a business model that they're getting all those prepayments, some of which never get funded or used? Oh, and by the way, they're getting prepayment on a product that has about a 90% profit margin. Man, that's amazing. Maybe Starbucks really is a bank. How about Panera? Well, Panera, have you been there recently? You can subscribe to your coffee, just like that Volvo example, for $8.99 a month. How about this? Remember that mashup I talked about with the GPS, a phone, and a digital wallet, maybe Google AdWords, and geofencing? Have you ever been in a situation? I helped build this for one of the other companies in here that's not Tyson. I helped to build this infrastructure. And whenever you drive near one of these companies' restaurants, you get a little pop-up or notification on your cell phone. It says, hey, we'd like to offer you maybe an offer. Okay, it's called a segment offer, it's personalized. And in the old days, we used to drop a pin and then put a circle around it. The old days meaning like 15 years ago. This is how we do geofencing now, right? So the person walking on Main Street over there, where there's the blue dot, maybe that's a typical area with a lot of traffic. But the person coming in on the highway over there on the left, you see that's a highway? You give that person a little bit more time to be able to respond, maybe their partner in the car says, hey, let's go ahead and take that off road. And then get off the highway in a smart way. This is the way this is done now. So once you enter that geofence, we can actually push that notification to you. Let's take an example of Chick-fil-A. Kylie, who runs that app over there, says pre-ordering pickup was faster. How do you feel when you've pre-ordered on the app and then you drive to Chick-fil-A and you wait, and the schmucks who are showing up in the line, right? The drive-through line are getting their food faster than you. Is that a good experience? No. So, quote, we want to continue to get better at anticipating what our guests want and need. We know that we are never done innovating on our, here's the keyword. I didn't feed her this quote. Experience. We're always pursuing what's next. So now, through the app, they're using geofencing and they're putting that order in ahead of others, knowing how far out you are in line, in other words, so that when you arrive there, your order will be ready upon your arrival. That's a really great way to use geofencing. This is interesting. So this is how I'm going to wrap up today. So look very carefully at this ad. What? Why is it grayed out, pixelated? The Whopper Detour. If you go within 600 feet of a McDonald's and you have the Burger King app downloaded on your phone, enabling geofencing and that kind of thing, okay? Burger King, what they're saying and what they were doing is they were posting and pushing a message that says, oh, and they may not say this exactly, but we noticed that you just entered a geofence putting you within 600 feet of the McDonald's. Here's the Burger King offer. Come and get a 99-cent Whopper. Swerve. The Whopper swerve. The Whopper detour. How do you think that worked? Burger King, their mobile sales tripled with 1.5 million app downloads. You say, well, wait a minute, Paul, why did the apps download? You could only get the notification if you had an app. But people talked about it. And so they talked about it, and more people came and downloaded the app. So they had a lot more apps downloads, 9 days, and recording over 3.3 billion impressions on the campaign. The store saw the highest number of store visits in 4 years. And the chain estimated the campaign earned a 37-to-1 return on investment. So there was a very innovative application of a cell phone, a geo-targeted application, push notification, right, to put it all together. All right, I think I lost the control. I think that's my last slide. Let's see. Lost control of this.
I was just trying.
Okay. No worries. Okay. So that's my last slide. So what we're going to be doing on the case study is having you, we're going to put you in literally Keith's shoes. Some of the facts in the case study are absolutely true. Some of them are spiced in there like a historical fiction movie to make it a little bit more interesting. But I'm telling you that Alex and myself and Keith and the whole team at Tyson are very excited to be here and learn from you. We're here with no ego. We want to hear about your experiences in Fortnite, your experiences maybe in TikTok or in other places where I don't have my nose, and help us think about what you would do if you had the chance to revamp the loyalty program at Tyson. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to questions, and I'd like to bring my colleague Alex up to the stage and ask her your questions. And if you all don't have any, I'm going to cede the floor, right? So Alex, what is one of the most difficult challenges that you experience when you want to use data around operators, the people that buy your product? What's the biggest challenge that you have at Tyson Foods?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll start with a quick maybe intro of myself. So, hey everyone, I'm happy to be here. My name is Alex Thomas. And I am a senior manager at Tyson in the food service business unit. So I actually manage our marketing strategy and activation team. So within my team, we manage the website, which is tysonfoodservice.com. We manage a marketing automation platform, so sending emails, understanding who we have in our database. As Paul mentioned, very, very important to us is data. So our marketing automation platform helps us collect and distribute some of that data and send some personalized messages to operators, which we'll talk about a little bit later. On my team, we also have analytics, another important piece of data. So what are people doing when they're interacting with our digital messages? What are they doing when they interact with our website and our emails and our social media platforms? Where are their drop-off points? How do we improve our marketing to make sure that our communication is getting better, that we're providing value to those that we serve, which is a piece of, I think, the answer of a question that you have, which is providing value always to our operators. And then on my team as well is social media. So any Tyson Food Service handle, I'm going to plug us for a minute. Feel free to go follow any of our social media handles. We are really looking to grow our following there. That's been a huge initiative for us this year. We know that operators are out there on social, and so understanding too how to again provide value to operators, which I think, Paul, is really the answer to your question. So, as mentioned, collecting operator data, understanding who these people are. So what type of restaurant are they? How many units do they have? So how many restaurants do they have? What are they interested in? What do they serve? How many times do they innovate their menu? These are all things that we want to know that typically a distributor will have in terms of holding that data that Tyson definitely wants. So how do we start to ask some of those questions? Are they BuzzFeed type surveys? We have a tool that we use to survey some of our operators in a fun way to collect some of this data. As Paul mentioned, we're looking to, revamp our loyalty program. So how do we provide, incentives or perks to make sure the operators do want to continuously connect with us? So always trying to think through how do we provide value every single day to operators that interact with our brands and our channels.
Do you sleep?
No.
Yeah, that's just one half of the team, folks. It's just amazing what the amount of change that Tyson's bringing into the team. As you can imagine, it's an 85-year-old company, right? There's a lot of folks who've been here for an awful long time. We're talking about your boss's boss and her family that had 400 combined years of that family in service to Tyson.
Lots and lots of years. I think that's something that's super respectful about Tyson. I'm a fairly new to Tyson employee. I'll say fairly. I started at Tyson in November of 2020, which is unique when you think about how COVID has really impacted the workplace. But what I really respected about all of the employees at Tyson is the passion for the brand. How many families work at Tyson? Lots and lots of very tenured employees who started their careers at Tyson or started in a plant and ended up, coming over to corporate and working there. I think that's something that is really respectable that we, we think and hold true in our Tyson brand overall is just the importance of, how important each employee is from plant to corporate. Each person plays a very important part to innovating across all of our products and portfolio.
Hence why everybody's called a team member. And you'll see that when we write to you, the very first word is "Dear team member," right, in the memo that you get when you kick off the case study. All right, let's take a question from the group here.
How do you differentiate your social media presence between other businesses and customers? Because it's not often you go to a restaurant and they brag about having Tyson meat on their menu.
That's a very fantastic question. So for us, you'll see if you were to go out and follow Tyson Food Service on social, we're B2B to little b, but Tyson also has a retail side of the business. So you'll see that those social presences are much larger because we are trying to meet, consumer demand, which is, again, much larger. So for us, we have a unique experience when we think about operators that we serve. So we've been talking a little bit about restaurant operators. I think that's an easy one to start to plug into to think about, but there are other types of operators as well when we think about non-commercial. So healthcare, lodging, colleges and universities, K-12, all are very, very unique people and personas. So I think for us, it's been interesting as we try to think about how to differentiate and provide valuable content across all those different types of people. We've actually really shifted our strategy. We were doing a lot of specific channel marketing. So I want to talk to you specifically as you're a lodging operator. We realized we can't really control who sees all of our Facebook posts or all our Instagram posts. So how do we provide value across the entire marketing funnel into anyone that might see, a piece of digital content from us? So we really took a strategic approach with help from Paul to look at personas. And I don't know if you all are familiar with persona-based research, but it's something that's been incredibly important to us. So how do we start to loop and group people into larger categories? And you all see that in the case study, how we start to think about culinary forward or caretakers. How do we go across channels and really just speak to people, which is, I think, the heart of marketing, whether it's B2B or B2C. Everyone that's looking at a message that you'll see is ultimately a person. So how do we, solve a problem for them?
How is Tyson adapting to the change in the meatless products with the growth within the industry?
That's a fantastic question. Probably a better suited question. I don't know if there's someone on the Zoom. I don't know if we can interact with anyone on the Zoom, but convenience has been an interesting channel for us when you think about how B2B and B2C plays into convenience overall. One of those, pieces that we want to understand is how does Tyson really interact with convenience channel operators? Right now, one of our biggest initiatives is starting to collect some of that data. If you were to go out to TysonFoodService.com, you would see forms on our website that we try to collect data on every single day across our operator database. So to you, as a visitor on the website, you may think, oh, I'm going to sign up for a newsletter. I would love to know more information about this, or I want to get in contact with a sales rep. But really, we're collecting and hosting that data and using it for our database to create personalized messages. So for us, we may have a very unique group of convenience operators that we have maybe just a first name, a last name, and an email, because typically our distributors will have the majority of that information, or maybe a broker will have that information. And so for us, we'll say, hey, fill out this form, we'll send you a newsletter, we'll send you an offer, but in exchange, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. So, what products are, most important for your single convenience store, or how are, single operation convenience stores different from larger chains like a 7-Eleven. So this is data that we definitely want. We may or may not have it for all the operators that we want, but that's definitely something that we're looking to get. As mentioned in Paul's first question, how do we provide enough value that they're willing to give us that data so we can learn?
Let's go in the back.
Hi, so can you tell us a little bit more about how the loyalty program works and how the Tyson clients interact with the loyalty program and the benefits of it?
Sure, absolutely. So one of our loyalty programs is called the Tyson Partners Program. So currently today, you can sign up for the Tyson Partners Program on our website. That form is powered by my marketing automation tool. And so we take that data and we pass it off to a clearinghouse. So what we want to understand when operators sign up is how many units they have. Are they a large or small operator? And then they have to pass us back information. Unfortunately, the process of operators passing back that information, like an invoice or how many pounds they purchase of product, is done typically through mailing in an invoice, which is incredibly problematic when you think about how we want to store and hold data. It feels a little, 1990s, right? Are we going to fax in our invoices? How do we scan them in? So, for us, we also had, I think really too, when I first started working at Tyson at the end of 2020, the sign-up process was also, could be a printed out PDF that you can mail in. So, since I started at Tyson, we created that experience to be digital, but there's still a long ways to go. So that's a piece of it. So depending on how many pounds you purchase, you can get cash rewards back in the form of a check based on how many pounds you continuously purchase. So the minimum requirement is 1 pound and it just goes up from there. So obviously, the more pounds you purchase, the more rewards or kickbacks you can get. We also have a program called Real Rewards. And it's not a Tyson-owned program, but it helps operators get incentive-based products like marketing materials. So you think about how important it could be for a K-12 operator or, lunch ladies in your school. How do we get kids to enjoy eating school lunch? Obviously, Tyson products do power a lot of school lunches. So how do we make sure that we're getting more kids to eat school lunches? So whether that's printout materials or table tents, those are all things that can be redeemed through those types of loyalty programs.
So ultimately, and if I could just add on a little bit, we're giving money back based on volume. And that's kind of the rebate is the more common term. And then we give back points. We give back some, it could be, since these are government workers at the local municipal schools, we can't really send them money, can we? So we give them aprons. We might give them the opportunity to go to the annual convention. We might give them knives, right? But giving them products, giving cash back, that's 1.0. We'd like to do something more interesting. Maybe we can do like Harvard. Maybe we can do like Starbucks. Maybe we can do like Volvo. Maybe we can do something different with some of those other business models. And for example, and in the case study, we give you some ways to kickstart. You don't have to take the ideas, but we give you 5 ideas. One of those ideas is in the loyalty program, maybe Tyson should invest in and buy a software company. And that software company would do the accounting for a restaurant, a mid-market restaurant. We're not going to get McDonald's to change their system, but we might get the food trucks out here, or maybe with Clover, if you're familiar with that, a way to pay, it's a system there. Maybe you should make an investment in that. Oh, and by the way, just like Google, if you use our free software, what do we get? The data. Oh, that's important. So maybe we monetize our data by getting in the publishing business. Maybe we've given you 5 different ideas. Take them or leave them. You don't have to use them. It's just to get the car pushed and get the battery started so you can start building on those. But what are the rewards that we could be offering that would actually maybe change the way we make money, or maybe change the way we collect that data? So why do you think Red Bull Publishing got in the publishing business? Don't they make some drinks, right? That was massive publishing business, right? And so there's so many ideas of other things we could give. And this is why I made the reference to Fortnite or Minecraft, or video games do a great job with freemium and in-purchase and in-game advertising or in-game purchases. They give you something, and then maybe to get to the next level, there's another thing that you need to do. So maybe go back to the accounting software. Maybe you get 2 months free, and if you're a premium, you get 4 months free, or maybe you give away all. And some of those systems are pretty pricey, like $50,000 a year. But a lot of folks are getting checks for $50,000 a year. They're buying hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in our product. So nothing's off the table. If you have an idea, this is going to probably be viewed by Tyson Ventures, which is the venture capital arm of Tyson. They're interested in your product, right? What your ideas are going to have. So some of the ideas that you come up with might actually be take shape in the future.
I think too, we've been talking a lot about B2B versus, B2C. Obviously, Tyson Food Service is business to business, but, I challenge my team this every single week when we think about content and marketing and digital marketing specifically, and apps and websites that we look at. We're all consumers of content. So what's working specifically in a B2C space can absolutely be applicable in a B2B setting and can be wildly successful. So really wanting to challenge you all to think about as you interact with apps and websites and marketing content and things that really provide value to you in a B2C setting. Ultimately, we are all consumers of content and loyalty apps, and those can be wildly applicable to business settings, especially when you think about a very small restaurant operator who, maybe kind of a one-man band who does, he or she does a lot for, their restaurant in terms of buying and billing and staffing, labor challenges, all of these things, that we kind of take in and interact with in our day-to-day lives can absolutely be applied in a business-to-business setting.
So we're going to take one more question here. Yeah.
So my question actually kind of a good follow-up to what you just mentioned. So you were just talking about that small business, and Tyson is obviously known in the big business world. So is the true goal of this expansion to try and increase the big B to little b side, or are you looking for more of that big B to big B interaction that Tyson is known for?
That's a fantastic question. So it's definitely on the smaller side. So I mentioned I manage a digital marketing team at Tyson, but really we are digital salespeople. So what my team is really responsible for is more of a sales function and how we really get and attract these smaller operators that you're thinking of. So typically you'll see a large chain restaurant and they will have a dedicated staff of Tyson salespeople that call on them every single day. We don't even, interact with them from a marketing perspective. They have people that know them by name. They have full teams that call them. What we're really focused on is, just like Paul mentioned, those food trucks outside. Who owns those food trucks? What are they interested in? What can we provide, from a Tyson perspective that would be valuable for them and their menu and, create innovation, improve their labor costs. And if they're struggling hiring, how can we provide, menu solutions that, maybe require less people back of house to actually make those products. So for us, we really, why we want to hold that data is because we are like salespeople. How do we know who to call if we don't have their information? How do I sell them Tyson products if I don't have their email? How do I let them know that we have new product offerings or that we have incentives that they can take advantage of if I don't know who they are? So really, this loyalty program is so important from a selling perspective to understand who people are and what they want and how we can get in contact with them.
Okay. I think it's also important to note the complexity in food service. And this is not uncommon, where the buyer is not the payer. It happens in not-for-profits, pharmaceuticals, any place where a distributor is present in financial services, and it happens in food service. So what do I mean by that? Manufacturer, Hunter Fans, for example, manufactures a product. Then they go to Home Depot, the big box store. They have to get the product slotted over there. It might take 3 years for that new fan to finally make its way. And Home Depot says, I'm willing to now sell that new product. Due to Home Depot, not due to Hunter. Same thing here. It takes 3 years to get it slotted at Cisco. So now the manufacturer has to go through this middleman of Cisco, US Food, Norton Foods, Samuel and Sons. Those are distributors. They run the cold assets, the big 18-wheeler trucks. Tyson is never going to do that. But what do we know about that part of the world? Is there innovation happening in logistics today? Do you think Amazon someday is maybe going to buy Cisco? Whoever thought, when I was a kid, that they have same-day ordering? What happens if Uber gets to the refrigerated truck business? There's tremendous disruption. And we don't know what it's going to look like. And we don't care. We want a direct relationship with the operator so that whatever that disruption happens, whether it's 3D printing it back in the house in 15 years, or whether it's just the chance that the distributor like Cisco doesn't want to share their information about, Tyson knows that Cisco buys a couple $2 billion from them a month. And then Cisco brings it all in their warehouses. And they don't let Tyson look. They say, okay, now we're going to give it to you. Now we're going to sell that product, which is Tyson product in their inventory, to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, well, there's 600,000 restaurants in this case study. And that is their view. They do not want to share that data with Tyson. So Tyson knows there's $1 billion going to, a handful of distributors and has no visibility thereafter. It's called obfuscation. So you're going to see this in the case study for the person who asked the question in the back. We have some graphs and charts as well as very description of the two programs in the case study. So that's the challenge that we're experiencing. And we think that with some of your ideas, we can begin to bring in new ways and new answers to find value for operators. And even though maybe some of you haven't really maybe worked in a restaurant, you've all eaten at one, right? And so your experiences are just as valuable as everybody else's. So we really are expecting some really great ideas to bubble up from the hard work and your willingness to volunteer to participate in this competition. So from all of us at Tyson Foods at Lima, and I speak for the administration and the staff, thank you for your participation. We're looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. And I'll be along with Alex and some other of the team members, seeing those who are finalists again on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much from all of us at Tyson. We're really looking forward to the results. We're so excited. We've been talking about this for weeks. So again, so excited, really looking forward to seeing everyone again on Saturday.
I've never been to a case competition where the students got to interview the company even before the competition started. So hopefully you've taken away some good information here. The slide deck will be available. Not the slide deck. The case will be available at 7, right? Absolutely. So you can track on this. I'll let you get us over there. Let me offer you just a couple pieces of advice or maybe encouragement here, okay? One, when you first get the case, give yourself time to get through it, okay? Work through it very intentionally. There is so much information and data in that case. So take the time, all right? This is where you're gonna build your roadmap for it as well. 2, there are all different levels in this room and different experiences. And it doesn't matter if you are second semester freshmen or final semester OMBA students. You all bring your skill, your talents, your experience, the learning that you have to this challenge. And just because you haven't been in the workforce doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to generate some really good ideas here. The first year we did this competition, the first place team was a bunch of freshmen. All right? So don't doubt your ability to create some really insightful recommendations for Tyson. And honestly, I think that's what they want. They want something that's out of the box that honestly only you guys can offer. So don't be intimidated by this. It's gonna be hard work. It's gonna be some long hours over the next 24 hours, but do have confidence in your ability and the skills that you have to do something really good. I'm going to turn it over to Hunter for him to wrap it up.
All right, so just a couple quick logistical announcements. The case packet will be sent to each and every one of you via email at 7 o'clock tonight in about 10 minutes. Your presentation, your solution will be due in the form of a slide deck at 7 p.m. tomorrow. There is a Google form that will be included in the email that you'll receive, and that is where you will submit your deck. There's one team that has 2 members that come from outside of the Fox School. As advertised, that team received 2 additional hours of work time per member, so their case will be due at 11 p.m. On Saturday, please arrive here in this room promptly at 8:30. We will announce the time that you will be presenting. When you arrive on Saturday, we'll have everything teed up for you in the room, your deck up on the screen. We'll have a clicker for you to move through the slides. We'll have breakfast, a light breakfast here for you. So arrive at 8:30 and we'll let you know what comes next. All teams should expect that they may be here until about 4 o'clock on Saturday. It's when the final, the closing reception will end. A couple of things to keep in mind. Everyone is dressed wonderfully here. Please come business professional on Saturday as well. You'll be interacting with consultants from the Philadelphia area and potentially the folks from Tyson. So you'll want to represent yourself well in that way. There are a couple additional things in the email that you'll receive tonight, including the GroupMe. If you have questions, whether it's a logistics question, a question about the case, please do not hesitate to send that question. You can either send it to the whole group in GroupMe or directly to me. If it's a question about the case, I'll likely broadcast the answer to everyone so that there's nothing going on behind the scenes. And we will communicate with you all through that GroupMe as well. I'll be up, not through the night, but late into the night. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I know we have policies about COVID are changing kind of soon. We're going to run with where we're at right now throughout the weekend. And our judges will be doing the same thing. The last thing says return your name tag. You don't need to do that. We keep the name tag with you, but please make sure to bring it back on Saturday. We have some notepads and pens and some things over at the table that you can grab on your way out. But you should be receiving that email in about 5 minutes. Like I said, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But with that, here we go.
Good luck.
Like,